Hello, everyone. Today I'm presenting Inside Out and the American Youth Mental Health Crisis, a political allegory. This presentation connects the emotional lessons from the Pixar film Inside Out to the real world data from the organizations like the CDC, the American Psychological Association, and the Bipartisan Policy Center, NAMI, and the Office of Surgeon General. My goal is to show how the movie's emotional story can help us understand what's happening to young people today and what the national government is doing in response. In the last decade, youth mental health has shifted from being seen as an individual issue to something that affects entire schools, communities, and even national policies. At the same time, Inside Out gives us a powerful visual metaphor for emotional development and emotional collapse that looks surprisingly similar to what many teens are experiencing. This presentation uses the movie as an allegory to explain the modern youth mental health crisis, focusing essentially on the political landscape that shapes the resources young people have access to. The presentation is analyzing the post 2010 political era when technology, schooling, and social pressures have changed rapidly. According to the CDC's 2023 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, feelings of sadness, anxiety, hopelessness are among teens have reached the highest levels ever recorded. These numbers aren't based on opinion. They come from the national surveys of hundreds of thousands of high school students. The American Psychological Association also reports that psychologists are seeing younger children experience anxiety, depression, and emotional dysregulation earlier than ever before. In fact, in the article by Abrams in 2023, the APA emphasizes that psychologists are trying to spread knowledge of the mental health epidemic because the numbers are so concerning. Researchers point to several major causes: social media pressure and online comparison, academic stress, safety concerns and instability, and declines in face to face interaction. These factors together produce a perfect storm of emotional overload, much like what we see in the film inside Riley's mind in the film. To understand this crisis, we have to understand that the political era from about 2010 to today. During this time, several political forces shape mental health outcomes for youth. These key political actors can include Congress, the President and the executive branch, the U.S. Surgeon General, and federal agencies like HHS, CDC, and SAHSA. Major political debates include how to regulate big tech and protect teens from the harmful online content, whether schools should be required to provide more mental health staff, and how much federal funding should go towards prevention rather than crisis treatment. This era is also shaped by political division. Some policymakers want strong federal standards and protections for youth mental health, while others prefer to leave decisions up to states or families. For the allegory to make sense, let's briefly review Inside Out. The movie follows Riley, an 11-year-old girl dealing with a major life transition, which is moving across the country from Minnesota to San Francisco. Inside her mind, there are five emotions that operate her control center: joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. When Riley becomes overwhelmed, her emotional system collapses. She loses her core memories, and joy and sadness disappear, and the remaining emotions try unsuccessfully to manage the system and keep it stable. This emotional shutdown represents what many young people experience when the stressors in their lives exceed the support systems around them. The stress in the movie causes the breakdown of her control center. In the allegory, each of Riley's emotions represent a major social or political pressure affecting teens today. Joy represents policymakers and school systems that rely on positivity culture and encouraging kids to stay upbeat without addressing any of the root problems. Sadness represents mental health professionals, counselors, psychologists, and school support staff who validate emotions and help process them, but who are often underfunded or overlooked. Anger reflects parents and communities' frustrations rising with the mental health issues, along with political critics demanding immediate action. Disgust symbolizes social media judgment, peer pressure, and the obsession with image, which the CDC reports plays a major role in the teen mental health declines. Fear here represents the real anxieties teens face today: school safety issues, online threats, academic pressures, and performance expectations. These forces often clash, and just like in the film, when they stop working together, the system breaks down. In Inside Out, the emotional system collapses when Riley feels invisible and unsupported. This collapse mirrors what happens across the U.S. The Bipartisan Policy Center 2025 reports showing that the national youth mental health system is overwhelmed. They explain that while funding exists, it's often not early enough or consistent enough to prevent harm. NAMI also reports that many states have gaps in the mental health laws, leaving some youth without access to school-based support or early intervention. Just as Riley loses access to her emotional islands, many teens lose access to support relationships, coping strategies, or professional care. The result is a national-wide control center that is overloaded, understaffed, and unable to meet rising demand. The same situation the movie symbolizes emotionally. Now let's look specifically at federal action. According to the Office of the Surgeon General, the U.S. government has acknowledged the crisis and has begun taking several steps. In 2021, the Surgeon General issued a landmark advisory describing youth mental health as an urgent public health priority. The Bipartisan Safer Communities Act passed in 2022, and it increased federal funding to hire mental health professionals in schools. Agencies like HHS, SAMHSA, and the CDC expanded grants for community mental health programs and school-based counseling, and mobile crisis services. The National 988 Mental Health Crisis Hotline launched to provide fast and accessible support. And federal agencies are researching the impact the social media and platforms have on adolescents' well-being. However, the Bipartisan Policy Center notes that more funding is still needed for prevention, meaning we need to help kids sooner, not just when they're already in the crisis. My position is that while the national government is finally taking the youth mental health crisis seriously, these efforts remain mostly reactive. We step in when children are already struggling, but we don't invest enough in prevention, early identification, or widespread school-based support. Instead, the federal government should be regulating social media companies more strictly, increase early childhood and school mental health funding, integrate mental health education into all public schools, and ensure every student has routine access to counseling. Inside Out shows that if we ignore emotional needs, things begin to fall apart. In the real world, we need policies that keep the control centers of our youth functioning before a crisis ever begins. To conclude, Inside Out provides a surprisingly accurate allegory for the youth mental health crisis. Just like Riley, many young people are overwhelmed by emotional pressures, environmental stress, and a lack of support. This crisis is not just emotional, it's political. Decisions about funding, regulation, access to care, and school support directly shape teen well-being. By connecting the film to real data from the CDC, APA, NAMI, the Bipartisan Policy Center, and the Surgeon General, we can see that improving youth mental health requires coordinated emotional, social, and political action. Thank you.